Welcome to Mobile Math, Math Lessons on the Go. Today's learning goal, by the end of this lesson, I should be able to multiply single and double-digit positive numbers together using something called the distributive property of multiplication. And again, I'm doing this without the use of a calculator or any other technology. So it's important to remember that multiplication is a shortcut for repetitive addition. When we are asked to multiply numbers together, the final result is called the product. So the key words, product, multiply, times, those are all words associated with multiplication. So we have looked at the area model and friendly numbers already. We did this one before. 3 times 8 is 24. We talked about the number of squares being present either in rows and columns. We talked about how we can break up those 24 squares into two groups, in this case 15 squares and 9 squares. What I want to focus on over here though is the number model. And what we can see here is the 8 is broken down into a 5 plus 3 right here. So that 8 and that 5 plus 3 is really how this 8 is broken down into these two pieces. And then the distributive property says that I am going to distribute that 3 that's multiplied out front to both parts, both the 5 and the 3. And what we can recognize or see from this is that when we multiply that 3 into each part, we're actually establishing or creating that other dimension that is required to find the area of those rectangles. So by distributing the 3 to the other parts, we're actually helping to create those other smaller areas which we talked about summing up to find the final product. So in this case here, you'll see 3 times 5 is 15, 3 times 3 is 9, and I'm still left with the 24. We've also looked at the area model for 4 times 13. We know the answer, or this product, is 52. So if I look at the number model here, I'm going to break down the 13 into smaller pieces, in this case a 10 plus a 3, so some fairly friendly numbers. The distributive property says that I can distribute that 4 to both the 10 and the 3. And what you'll notice here is 4 times 10, well, that's this piece right here. 4 times 10 is the area of the larger rectangle. And then 4 times 3, that's the second rectangle right here. 4 times 3. And if I evaluate those pieces, I end up with a 40 plus 12. And again, I get the same result as 52. So I'm going to move away from the squares and just go to the more open area model here. So if we take a quick look at 8 times 21, if I break my 21 up into a 20 plus a 1, I have two parts that I'm going to calculate. So the first part is 8 times 20, or 160, and the second part is 8 times 1, or 8 for the ones column. If we come back to the number model for a moment, you can see how 21 here is broken up just like we did in the area model. And then I'm going to distribute that 8 to both pieces, both the 20 and the 1, so there it is, distributed to both pieces. And you'll notice that the 8 by 20 is right here, the 8 times 1 is right here, and I have the exact same pieces in the number model as I do in the area model. So they're both giving me the same product. It's very similar thinking, just a very different layout. So if you like the area model, by all means stick with the area model. If you want to try something new with the number model and the distributive property, you'll notice I still get the same result from both. We'll try something a little larger here, and this might be a bit tricky, so take your time with this one. I'm going to break up the 75 here. When I multiply 6 times 75, I'm going to break up the 75 into a 50, a 20, and a 5. So you'll notice over here on the area model, I've done the exact same thing. Now to find those areas inside the area model, to get the first one, I have to multiply 6 by 50. And you'll notice when I distribute this 6 to these three terms, the first product or group I make up is a 6 times a 50. As I continue on, I have 6 times 20, which is the second group over here in the area model. And my final is 6 times 5, which is the third piece here in the area model. When I evaluate all of those terms being multiplied together, I end up with 300, 120, and 30, and I have those color coordinated in the area model so you can see where they land. I may have to make some friendly number choices to add these together, so I broke up the 120 into 100 and a 20. I can add those together from there, and in the end, I end up with the same amount of 450 in both models. So if you could press pause on the video right now. Oops, skipped one too far ahead. If you could press pause on the video and try the following. So find the product for the following using the distributive property. So there are 3 questions there, so if you could hit pause now, please. Okay, welcome back. So I'm just going to reveal the solutions that I have here, or partial solutions. So the first one I broke up, 5 times 14, I broke up into a 5 times a 10 plus a 4. So if I distribute the 5 to both terms, 5 times 10 would be 50, 5 times 4 would be 20, and if I add those 2 pieces together, I get 70. The second answer here, I broke up the 28 into a 20 plus an 8. So if I distribute the 8 to both of those pieces, I will have 8 times 20, which is 160. And then I have an 8 times 8, which is another 64. And I may have to do a little bit more breaking down to be comfortable with those, but I'm quite happy with them. So I get a final answer of 224. And then the final one, we have 6 times 125, so I broke the 125 down into hundreds, tens, and ones. And if I distribute that to those 3 pieces, I end up with 600 plus 120 plus 30. And when I add those up, and again, you may have to take an extra line or 2 here, I end up with 750. So thank you for watching. Please watch again and pause where you may have had difficulties, and good luck in your future math problems.